Call the council meeting to order. Please be seated. Motion to reconvene the open council meeting. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. We have proclamations today. And let me see. The first proclamation I'm reading, and this is from the Office of the Mayor of the City of Burnaby, Proclamation, International of Racial Discrimination. Discrimination is a universal issue that divides communities and threatens the political, social, economic, and cultural foundations on which cities are built. And whereas the City of Burnaby is a signatory municipality of the Canadian Coalition of Municipalities Against Racism and Discrimination, and whereas the General Assembly of the United Nations has designated March 21st as the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, and whereas the elimination of racism and racial discrimination can be accomplished through understanding and respect for the dignity of all people, and is the social and moral responsibility of each person. Now therefore, I, Derek R. Corrigan, Mayor, do hereby proclaim March 21st, 2000.
And whereas many people living with epilepsy still face barriers due to a lack of awareness about the disorder, and whereas public misconception all too often creates stigma and social isolation, which has a devastating effect on the self-esteem of children who have epilepsy, and whereas Purple Day raises awareness of epilepsy and supports those affected by this disorder, now, therefore, yourself, Mayor Derek Corrigan, does proclaim March 26, 2017 as Purple Day in the City of Burnaby.
Thank you. And we have some special guests here to receive a copy of this proclamation. Melody Forseth and Harmony Forseth. Are you here? Good. Well, I'll come down and present this to you.
One in every 700 babies born in Canada has Down syndrome, and whereas there are currently over 40,000 Canadian citizens who have Down syndrome, and whereas individuals with Down syndrome have tremendous potential to live full and fulfilling lives as contributing members of the community, and whereas the City of Burnaby values our citizens with Down syndrome and their families, and whereas the City of Burnaby fully supports the rights, inclusion, and well-being of all individuals with Down syndrome. Now therefore, I, Derek R. Corrigan, Mayor of Burnaby, do hereby proclaim the day of March 21st, 2017 as World Down Syndrome Day in the city of Burnaby.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jordan. And a motion to adopt the minutes of the open council meeting held on March the 6th, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, and carried. A motion to resolve into a committee of the whole to consider reports.
Second.
All those in favor, opposed, and carried. And the first report moving on to the city manager's report. The first item is to seek council approval to amend the regional sanitary sewer area boundary established in 1953 to accurately reflect how existing properties are currently being serviced and proceed with a formal request to Metro Vancouver to approve the amendment.
Second motion.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 2.
Second.
This is to seek council approval to enlarge the Hastings Business Improvement Area. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 3. This is to obtain council authority for city staff and/or agents to enter onto the property at 3873 Pender Street to bring the property into compliance with the Burnaby Unsightly Premises Bylaw. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 4.
Second.
This is to seek authorization to abandon outstanding rezoning amendment bylaws in accordance with the adopted council process. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 5. This is to seek council approval for road closures for the 2017 Rotary Grand Prix.
Move the recommendations.
Second.
Councillor McDonnell.
Yes, through you to the Director of Parks. When we had this being operated by Canary Foundation, when I was looking at the map, there was some problems with that first curve because of the steepness of the hill there, and that they reduced the actual run itself. I'm wondering if that's been taken into consideration. I don't know if you heard that.
Worship, through you. Yeah, the buffering on that corner will be enhanced so that, you know, if there is someone who takes it at speed, that the corner will be able to handle it. So I think that's what the organizers were looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and it's nice to see that they're restarting the Grand Prix. It's been out for a number of years, but there's always a lot of fun at a soapbox derby, so that's interesting. Right, you ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Moving on to item 6. This is to seek council approval for a road closure for the 19th annual Do It for Dad Walk Run for prostate cancer on June the 18th, 2017. Right, it's been a mover and a seconder. Any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. And item 5.7. This is the building permit tabulation report number 2. This provides council with information on the construction activity as reflected by the building permits that have been issued for the subject period This is receipt for information. Questions called? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Moving on then to bylaws and motion to rise and report, please. All those in favor, opposed, carried. A motion to adopt the report of the committee. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Bylaws now. Councillor King.
For consideration and third reading, I move that bylaw number 13600, 13626, 13632, 13642 be now considered and read a third time.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, opposed, and carried.
For third reading, reconsideration, and final adoption, I move that bylaw number 13710 be now read a third time, reconsidered, and finally adopted, signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
For reconsideration and final adoption, I move that bylaw number 13530, 13732 be now reconsidered and finally adopted, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Councillor Jordan.
I'm sorry, Your Worship. In case you or some members of the public program, and the amount of the application was for $5.8 million. And because of the new funding formula that the federal government has introduced, we got 50% from them and 30% from the province. So we got a grant of $4.8 million towards that project. So we had quite a celebration on Thursday, and I'm sorry that none of you who did all the work were here to participate in that, but it was a pretty big media event, and ministers of both provincial and federal government were here present, and they didn't bring the check, but they said it's in the mail. So we're very happy to receive that, and maybe we could, send a letter thanking them. We haven't had occasion to do this for so long to accept.
We don't know how to handle
to accept
ourselves.
money from the other orders of government, and it's a very pleasant change. And I so expressed at the meeting that Councillor Dollywell was there with me to accept on our behalf, and
I know I kind of feel like a guy who hasn't had a date in a long time, and then suddenly you've got one and you don't know what to do, but you desperately want to have another one. So I'm going to be on my best behavior as we don't get these grants very often. I'm thrilled that we've received this additional money. Good job to staff. It must have been you that did it. And hopefully if we behave appropriately, and I'm sure Councillor Jordan and Councillor Dollywell, you were on your best behavior, maybe more of these can come into the city. We'll make an application immediately for additional grants, and I'll write letters on our behalf thanking both the provincial and federal governments for thinking of us.
Watching some debates from the legislature recently, a certain minister who will go unnamed kept saying how he never gets any thank you letters from people, cities and things that he gives money to. So if it's that important, I think we could manage a stamp.
We're very good at thank you letters. We just haven't had many opportunities.
Exactly. So
All right. Thank you very much for doing that for me. Both Councillor Dhaliwal and Councillor Jordan were there, and we wanted to overload them with love. So hopefully there will be more grants coming in the future. Right, and with that, Councillor Dhaliwal.
Once again, just a quick finger at
It's been moved. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Thank you very much to council and staff, and thank you to everyone who was with us tonight.